Hey guys, Luke here from Hands and Heels, and this is about take 3. I've had some terrible trouble with the video camera. I just did a whole set and realised that it wasn't recording, so pretty stupid mistake on my behalf, but we'll try again. I'm trying to get this video up on Thursday today for the Cox Plate Preview. Obviously it gives everybody a chance to watch it early, form their opinions, shape it with theirs, and then obviously sort of come up with a bit of a betting strategy as to how they'd like to play the race. So let me just turn this around. Cool, that's better, so you can see. Alright, so we're going to go to Moonee Valley Saturday, as I said, Cox Plate Day. So big thing with Moonee Valley is I don't want to try and get too much money involved early on, because, like, when I say early on, we're talking Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday, because I'm not sure how the track's going to play. And Moonee Valley traditionally plays a bit leaderish on pace. And I don't want to be backing something that's going to be back in the field, trying to make that swooping Chautauqua run. And, you know, nothing has won from there all day. You can almost throw your ticket in the bin. So you don't want that to happen. So if you are going to back something early, you want to make sure that A, it's overs, B, you're happy with the price, and then C, it's at least an on-pace runner or going to be sitting in that first 4 or 5 runners, so that, you know, if it is on pace, it's probably favoured, and if it's not on pace, if it's a fair track, it's still got a chance. So with that in mind, we'll go to race 1. We'll roll through it all. And 2-year-olds, 1,000 metres, obviously it's a hard race to have a strong opinion on because a lot of them are on debut. What I have had a flutter on Jawal though, the Hayes and Dabinick runner. So I thought $5 was pretty fair for this horse. So why I like it is that, you know, it's out of Stitzel. So Stitzel's obviously a champion sire. He's going great at the moment. It's a half to Amicus, so it's beautifully bred. I think it was an $800,000 yearling. Had a very good jump out. Was untouched. Barrier 4. And then, you know, the Hayes and Dabinick yard is probably the biggest positive for it, is that they're winning races left, right and centre with these 2-year-olds at the moment. They had Medinity last year, who won first up, and he has his early running 2-year-olds. He's had Nomathage and Quafila already in Melbourne this time round for 2-year-olds. So, you know, a horse with this profile I think is a good bet there at $5. But, you know, you don't go broke on it. It's just it's a suspicion more than anything, rather than based off, you know, race day form. So I go down to race 2 and 9.55. Tread with caution in this race. I've kept my hands in my pockets at this stage because a few of these are dual noms. So you've got Sir Bible dual noms, you've got Danuki dual noms, and I think Petite Reward dual noms. So a few could come out. On pace, I think being on pace over 9.55 at Moonee Valley is a huge advantage, and you're looking at Sir Bible and Danuki for the speed. So both of them are dual noms, so one of them might come out. I'm quite keen on Danuki here, so I hope Danuki stays in the field, especially if Sir Bible comes out. You know, you probably still get $8 Danuki or something like that. It's $9.50 currently. Sir Bible's taking up a chunk of the market at $5.50. But Danuki last start led over 1,000 at Cranbourne and was run down late by Rock and Gold, who is $4.80 here. So Rock and Gold beat it last start, half its quote here. But I think Danuki can turn the tables. 50 metres less and a short Moonee Valley straight, and especially if it's playing on pace, I think he beats Rock and Gold. He's a speedy horse, Danuki, and, you know, I think he can run a very good race. And provided we get at least 8 in the field, so if 3 of them scratch, we'll only get 7, which should be a disappointment. But if we can get 8, we could probably get $2.50 for Danuki to play. So I think he's a moral to run a drum if there's only 8 in the field, especially with no Sir Bible in the field. So here's the way I'm looking to play. Battle Hoss will get the suck run in behind them, but maybe 9.55 is a bit short for him. I'm not too sure. It's a query. Gun Case has claims, track and distance form, running well at the moment as well, and Rock and Gold has track and distance form. But the thing with Rock and Gold is get back run on runner. So, you know, if the on pace is dominant, you know, Rock and Gold's going to find it hard to figure. And Gun Case wide gate giving weight to others too. They're the negatives there. So I think the others are at the right price. Diamond Oasis isn't hopeless. Has track and distance form as well. $17 each way. You could do worse than Flutter there. But pretty keen to potentially have an each way bet on Danuki. Just keep my hands in my pockets to wait to see, you know, who comes out, who remains in the race, and we're not going to have much of an idea on track pattern. So once I get scratchies, I can probably have a bet there. Race 3. Anchor Stakes, 3-year-olds. Group 3. I've got Single Bullet as top pick here, and I bet up. He's won. Him and Joel are the only two that I've backed at this stage at the Valley. I think he's the best horse in the race from what I've seen. His form lines are strong. He's only lost to one horse this preparation, and it's Viridine twice. And Viridine's, I think, sitting at $6 for the Coolmore. So he's obviously a handy horse, undefeated, good dolphin runner. Single Bullet trialled with She Will Reign this preparation and was arguably more impressive, even though it was only a trial. And last preparation was mixing in the group races as well. Barrier 7, Tim Clark, I think Single Bullet can sit outside the lead, which he did last start, or he could potentially sit one out, one back. I think he maps beautifully. And I'm not really afraid whether it's on pace or not. I just think he's a good bet at 550. Second pick's Trekking. Trekking's, look, he's got good form lines. He comes out of form with horses like Booker, Merchant Navy, Minari. He hasn't been far behind them, but I think in those runs, he lost to Minari, but Minari gave him 4.5 kilos, I think it was, and circled the field while Trekking saved ground with the soft run. And Minari still beat him by 2 lengths. And then Booker covered ground and was a bit wide with no cover, I believe. Then Trekking saved ground again and had an extra, and was second up, so had a bit of an extra fitness edge on Booker, who was first up. So whilst he's been competitive with these good form lines, I think he's had favours in the runs, and the others, these strong horses, had been slightly disadvantaged by luck in running or fitness or whatever it may be. So I think at 370 I'm against Trekking at the price. Bowman Barrier 4, he obviously has some appeal there, but first time Valley as well. I have him second pick behind Single Bullet. I think Single Bullet's runs had more merit and been stronger. Duchamus, can make a case for him off a bit of a freshen, but I think his form in his last 2 runs, last prep, he was behind Bandipur, who has probably been seen to be second rate. Bandipur's a solid sprinter, but I think he's that second tier. He's a tier below Single Bullet and Trekking. Bandipur, so you get a good line through Bandipur. Bandipur was beaten by Overshare at the Valley, and Overshare was beaten home by Trekking in Sydney. So you can sort of tie that in there. And Duchamus, and Bandipur, as well, beat home I Did It Again, and I Did It Again was arguably a better run that day, but then he subsequently failed against Formality, Jukebox and horses like that. So I think the appeal with Duchamus is speed map. He's a get forward horse as well, and he's coming off a break and a nice trial win. So he's my third pick, and then Eclair Sunshine will be my fourth pick because he has ability coming out of the Guineas Prelude and some strong races, and some finishes around a horse like Royal Symphony. He was a bit disappointing last week, Eclair Sunshine. Over-raced, but he's back to 1200 here, so there's probably one more throw at the stumps before he goes out for a spell. I think they've brought him back to 1200 because he's not settling over 14. And if he runs up to his best form, he's going to be in the finish. Slightly against experimentation here. I just think his last start at the Valley, which is a tick having the experience here, but his second-rate form for this. He beat home Coruscate, who couldn't win a midweek race in the country somewhere. And he lost to Merriquib, who wasn't horrible, but was still beaten comfortably by Formality and Jukebox in the Blue Sapphire. So I think it's second tier form. I think Single Bullet's best horse in race, and I was happy to back at 550. He's in a 5 now. I think still a bet. I'd be happy to take 5 now if you come up 5. And that's about as far as my interest goes so far in that race. We'll go to race 4, Crockett Stakes. So 3-year-old fillies, 1200. Demerara is the favourite, and I just think at 220 she's a bit skinny. She's coming out of a benchmark 71 in Sydney, and she's beaten all before her so far, 3 from 3. Brendan Avdollah, Barrier 6, will go forward, has obvious appeal, and probably is my top pick in the race, but I just think 220 is unders when it comes from that form line. It's coming into a horse like Limestone, who's coming out of these strong races around Booker, Catchy, and those sort of Group 2, Group 1 runners. So Demerara, obvious claims, but I'm against the price. Limestone, I think, gets back to 1200, which is a big tick here. So this preparation, if we go through her runs, she was pretty good first up against the bias here at the Valley, 1200. She then ran really well up the straight, I think, in the Danehill. She loomed into it and sort of threatened to finish alongside Jukebox and Booker, just behind Catchy, until she fell down and Damon Lade came off the horse. Then went up to 1400 and was a bit poor back to 1200 is probably a positive here. Barrier 10's the issue, and the speed map's my issue, because if she goes forward, I'll be very keen to back her at 750, but if they're going to snag her back to last or second last, she's probably got none. So I'll wait to hear what they advise to do with the tactics before I have a bet on Limestone, but I think she's the best credentialed runner in the race. Jorda, I'm against. I think she was disappointing up the straight, and then last start she comes out of a pretty weak race in my opinion behind Invincible Star, beaten 4 lengths. I think she was beaten home by counterplay as well. She had every chance, Jorda. And barrier 9 here, she's probably going to go back. I can't take she's 650 now. She moved from $6 in my stuffed up video about half an hour ago. So interesting that she's drifted out. Ramuz, I'm against as well, just because of her preparation. I just think she was very good first up, fresh. Was on the Guineas path, but then had, I think, a virus, and then since then she's been terrible. You know, she returns back to her best. She's in this, but can't possibly anticipate that she will. Sanadat was a bit overrated, second and third up this prep, coming off her first up win. She was a bit unlucky here, this track and distance behind Scholes. Finished 4th, and then she was disappointing at 1400 when given every chance. Maybe she didn't run 1400, so she's back to 1200, which is a tick here for Freshen. McAvoy barrier 4 maps well. I think she's always been identified as a tier below her stablemates Tulip, Formality and Catchy, and hence why they haven't really put her in the same class of races. 750 is reasonable. I don't think she's too short. Just don't know if I can back her at 750 when Limestone's 750. I'd be leaning towards Limestone at the price. And then Blondie's the one I could back, so $21. So if you look at her form, first up she won over 1,000, second up she won this track and distance. No, she didn't win. She comes second, behind Scholes, who is Group 1 placed. And, you know, Group 1 form, catchy book of form, right in the thick of it, Scholes has been. She was barrier 1 that day, led, and only beaten by Scholes. So she gets barrier 1 here again at the same track and distance, 1200, which is, I'm always looking for that track and distance form, you know, bodes pretty well. And I just don't think she handled 14 at 1600 her last 2 starts. So at $21, you don't need a lot on to find out whether it was just the distance problems her last couple of starts. So no play in the race yet. Probably looking to have a flutter each way on Blondie, especially if they're showing signs that the track is doing on-pace favours. And if Limestone advises she's going forward, I'd be having a crack at Limestone, okay? Race 5, Tessio Stakes for the mares. So I'm looking at couple of runners here. So I think Oregon's Day is the best runner in the race, and it always pays to follow the best horse in the race. The thing with Oregon's Day is that, you know, she's barrier 9, she's going to be getting back, and she's going to have to swoop. So if they're swooping, I'll be keen to bet up, even at the current price of $370, which I thought was a bit too skinny. If they're on pace, she's probably got no chance, and, you know, she's taking up a good chunk of the market. You can potentially find some value somewhere else. The thing to note with Oregon's Day is that her best performance of her career has come at this track and distance last preparation, so she may well save her best for the Valley. Invincibella come up 260, and I'm not surprised. She has obvious appeal. 2 wins this preparation from 2 starts, box seat. She's going to be hard to beat, but she is first time Melbourne, first time Valley, and the combination that can bring unstuck some runners. And also, she's taking on different sets of form lines. She's not versing the same horses in Sydney. She's coming down to Melbourne and taking on separate form lines, which we don't know which one's stronger yet. So when you're taking 260, you don't have the confidence to say whether Invincibella's the best horse in the race or in the best form in the race either. Louboutin comes down from Sydney as well. Obviously a tough on-pace galloper, and she could be suited by the track, Moonee Valley, especially if it's playing on pace. So, yeah, the 3 chances and probably the next in line will be French Emotion, who could be an each way play at $12 here. I think she probably sits midfield from barrier 3. My issue with French Emotion is that she probably gets to the mile slightly quick second up. So that's the way I'm playing the race. I'm probably looking at Oregon's Day as my main bet, especially if the track's fair or if they're swooping. So no bet as of yet. Race 6, Moonee Valley Gold Cup, disappointing small field of 7 runners. Big Duke probably is a moral, 210 currently. I haven't backed it yet. I'm probably more looking to take 250, 260. 210 isn't really my style. I just think with the lack of horse racing and, you know, things needing to align and come together, lots of things can go wrong. 210 is a skinny price to be taken about any horse. But Big Duke clearly has the most ability in the race, I think. Last start winner against his main rivals here. So you've got second, third and fourth in the market, all beaten by Big Duke at their last 2 starts with him. So he's entitled to be short. And he's won at the Valley before, so now they're coming down to Melbourne, which is his backyard. So he's clearly suited, should suck up behind them, third on the rail, Abdullah on, hard to beat. Orvray second pick, obviously half a length behind Big Duke last start. He's the next in line as your selection. Will be a bit often, we'll try and swoop. Could be disadvantaged by track condition or bias, depends how it's playing, not too sure. I think Sis Montaigne, who was third in the St. Major, so you had Big Duke first, Allray second, Sis Montaigne third. Sis Montaigne $17 here, while you've got Who Shot the Barman and Libran, who Sis Montaigne beat home, about a third of his price. So I think he can be a bit of value here, because he's a leader, he's an on-pace runner, so he's going to be further suited by the Valley. So he beat them, he beat Who Shot the Barman and Libran at Randwick, so why can't he beat them at Moonee Valley when the shorter straight, and he's 1 from 1 at the track? So, whilst I don't think he can beat Big Duke, maybe he can't even beat Orvray, I wish there was 8 horses in the race, because I'd be keen to back him to run top 3. I'd be quite confident there. I might even have a flutter at $6.50 to run top 2 and $17 a win. You know, they're overs. I don't need a lot on to find out. So, Sis Montaigne will be my third pick behind Orvray and Big Duke, who I'll probably will back if he can get to 250, 260. Might not get that. Race 7, I haven't got much of an opinion. Fillies for Fillies Group 2, 1600 metres, sorry. Tough race, Banish, tricky map, probably gets back. I just have a suspicion Banish at 1400 is her best trip. Mintha comes out of the 1000 Guineas race, but was beaten 6 lengths, so $4.20 here, even though it is a strong form line. I just, you know, do you really want to be backing something at that price in an open field that's beaten 6 lengths? I don't think it's the right price. Speedway's the one, if I had to bet, I would back. I may back Speedway still. I'll sort of get my other sources, listen to some Mounting Yard Mail and things. But Speedway got good grounding because she's coming back from 2,000 metres. Her 1,600 metre form's great. She hasn't missed top 2 in 4 goes. Barrier 1, McAvoy sucking up on the rail. So, ticks more boxes than any other horse in the race for me. And the rest I don't have much of an opinion on or know that much about. So, low interest race. Speedway's the one I probably would look to have a nibble on. So Crystal Mile, race 8, and for some absurd reason Jungle Edge has entered in the race. You know, he's a sprinter, he's 1200 up to 1600 and he hasn't even had the grounding of any 1400 metre runs for this race. Normally you'll find, you know, a horse trying a distance that looks beyond it for the first time, they'll give it the best grounding possible. So, but he's the obvious speed. He leads horses over 1,000 metres, so he's obviously going to have the speed to lead over 1,600, which probably spoils Religify's chances because Religify's at his best when he controls. He'll sit second, still has a chance, but I don't know how many times I've seen him sort of chasing the leader and winning. Burning Front, Barrier 9, so he'll probably go forward. He could sit outside of Religify, or the other option is if it somewhat kicks up on the inside and holds its barrier spot, which is a possibility because he probably won't want to get too far back either, and sits sort of third on the rails, just behind the leader on the rails. Burning Front will either be posted, we'll have to work overtime to try and eyeball Jungle Edge, which will be hard, or we'll have to go back, which isn't suitable. So Burning Front ran really well last week, but I think he could have speed map issues. But, you know, he's tough, he's in the mix. 550, not too keen to dive into it. It's Somewhat and Sound Proposition are the runners that will probably sit fourth and fifth in the race, just behind those leading trio. Both have won over further, so, you know, I don't think they're going to be wilting that last 100 metres. So if you've got a horse like Religify and Burning Front who don't really go much further than 1,600, if you've got them chasing a hot tempo behind Jungle Edge, they're potentially vulnerable that last 100 metres. And if It's Somewhat and Sound Proposition quick enough, they can potentially go past Burning Front and Religify. So, both Sound Proposition and Somewhat come out of Group 1 races. So, It Somewhat comes out of the Sir Rupert Clarke, wasn't disgraced, carried top weight in a handicap, weight for age in a nice soft barrier is going to suit a hell of a lot better this time around. And Sound Proposition ran a respectable race in the Epsom. So, form line's good enough for them. Petrology and Windspell are sort of blouses that can get back and run on. Petrology was huge last start in the Toorak. I think he came third. That's what he's capable of. He's got that in the locker. He's just an absolute enigma that you can't catch. So good luck backing Petrology. But, maybe he's the horse you want to throw in your quaddy just in case he shows his best form and he's a big price. And Windspell probably needs the track to be suiting sort of back markers, and that's the same for Petrology as well. So, open race, case for quite a few of them. Antonio Giuseppe's another one in the race who I've just got to be completely against because he's coming back from 2,400 to 1,600 metres and it's only coming off 4 weeks. Barrier 10 as well. He can't really go forward because he's going to be posted. He won't be able to keep up with Jungle Edge, that's for sure. He might have to go back, try and swoop, and I just don't know if he's going that well either. And Lucky Hustler will be one of those swoopers in the Petrology and Windspell categories, but I think with Lucky Hustler, I think he's cooked. He hasn't been in the finish for a while, so hard to have him. So that's the way I'm looking at the Crystal Mile. Open race, different angles to take. I'm against a number of them. I'm probably keen on Sound Proposition. It's somewhat maybe looking for a slightly better price. But that's the way I'm looking at that. I'm just going to quickly run to the toilet 1 second. My apologies, guys. Sorry about that. Alright, so we've got 2 races left on the Saturday card at Moonee Valley. So we'll go Cox Plate, race 9. So obviously Winx is the hot tip around town if you didn't know. We're not going to spend too much time talking about her. We obviously know what a freak she is. She'll win by, it's more a case of trying to work out how much she's going to win by. But we'll talk about the rest of the runners, and I think Galo Chop is my clear second pick coming out of the Group 1 Caulfield Stakes. So that's probably the best form line coming into this, if you ask me. 2,000 metre form is great. He's an on-pace runner. Darren Weir will have him, cherry ripe for this. He's well grounded. Clear second pick. Sort of tossing up Folkswood and Humidor for 3rd and 4th. Probably leaning Folkswood's way. I just think with Folkswood, he's a bit more lightly raced. His preparation comes in 2nd up. On-pace runner, they've stated they're going to go forward as well, and McAvoy on. So, the thing with Folkswood is he's stepping up in grade. He's coming from a Cranbourne Cup where he beat Barisha and Grey Lion, so it's not really very strong form for a race as good as the Cox Plate. But, he's got obvious claims and he was quite impressive there. He could definitely improve out of it. Humidor, I think, is the 2nd best horse in the race, even better than Galo Chop at his best, but does things wrong, and he's had a strange prep. He was set for the Caulfield Cup. He wasn't hopeless. I thought he ran a creditable race with top weight and being ridden upside down. But he comes back on the 1 week back to 2,000, which probably isn't ideal. They've thrown him over a few hurdles at training this week. Put some blinkers on. I really think they're just throwing everything at him to try and find out what suits the horse, how he runs best. And I think they're guessing as much as we are. So they aren't positive signs that they're tinkering with his routine, because obviously they're not happy with him, or they want him to think he's got another level to go to. And barrier 8, he's going to get back. That's a track suit him. If they're swooping, of course, but I mean, Flemington's been the scene of his best 2 runs. So maybe Moonee Valley's not going to suit either, which, those negatives lead me to Foxwood as my 3rd pick. Happy Clapper, you might say, oh, what's wrong with Happy Clapper? And, I just think it's the 2,000 metre query. His form's exemplary. He's a class runner. He's probably in that humidor class as well. 1,600 metre form's tops, but, he's got a chink at 2,000. I think he's... couldn't get past classic uniform last start in Sydney in the Craven Plate. Probably should have. Probably was a moral beaten. Blake obviously got too far back on him. But, either way, when you're $1.40, you probably expect to round him up. And barrier 9 here, his speed map says he's going to be going back. Can he sit back? Can he swoop at Moonee Valley, which is not a swooper's track traditionally? And, he's suspect at the distance. So what I'm trying to say is Gaylord Chop might be 5 lengths ahead of him in the run. Is Happy Clapper that much better than Gaylord Chop that he can make up the 5 lengths on a horse that's a 2,000 metre horse while he struggles to enter the trip? I don't think he can. My logic says no there. And Royal Symphony I'm against as well because I don't know how good the horse is. I don't think his form's that strong. I think his last start he was beaten by Catchy Kementari, but Mighty Boss. If Mighty Boss, the 100 to 1 winner, was coming to the Cox Plate, I wonder what price he'd be. That's what I'm saying. 2,000 metres, he's yet to be tested at, so could be positive, could be a negative. All in all, he's $19, and you've got Gaylord Chop at 21, and I think Gaylord Chop has proven himself to be a better horse at this stage than Royal Symphony. So summarising the race, I've obviously got Winks on top, and then a bit of a margin, a few lengths at least, back to Gaylord Chop in 2nd. Then I'm probably looking for Foxwood 3rd, Humidor 4th. So that's the way I'm looking at the Cox Plate. And the last race of the day, so Moonee Valley Bays, 3-year-olds over 2,000. 2 hot pots here. I'd be keen to back either of them. I'd declare them immoral if they were on their race. If they were in the race on their own, but we wouldn't be getting a price either. So Cliff's Edge was huge last week. Bias or no bias, he beat Tangled, the spring champion runner-up, by 3 lengths. He beat the Derby favourite main stage by 5 lengths. He's a tough galloper and he's very likeable because he gives his all on pace. He's got a high cruising speed. He's been up for a while and Weary's done a great job, turning him out in good nick his last few. Aloysia, so I think great gate in barrier 1, so she should be close enough that she can strike on Cliff's Edge potentially. So she had barrier 1 in the 1,000 guineas and she had every favour. She got the nice dream rails run, but why can't she get that again from gate 1 this time? She could sit 4th or 5th on the rails, loom up to him under her own steam, and then present in just before the bend. Whether that happens or not, I'm not sure, but I think the gate's an advantage, and her breeding says that 2,000 will be no worries. And she has been set for the Oaks, so she went into the 1,000 guineas a bit underdone, and she should only improve further into this phase. So she's a red hot hope behind Cliff's Edge. Then you've got Sanction and Southmore coming out of the Guineas. Both ran quite well. They both hit the line reasonably well. Sanction's proven himself to be a decent 2,000 metre horse. He ran quite well in the Spring Champion. Barrier 2, McAvoy, he's obviously going to be up in the first few horses. Not hopeless, and Salsamore has been running on well. Now, barrier 9 will probably ensure he gets back in the field, and if it's swooping, he comes more into calculations than if they're not swooping. But he's bred out of tabby stock, so he should get better with 2,000 metres, and he should be suited. I think both horses are outside chances, but they're not up to Cliff's Edge and Aloysia. Salsamore will be my 3rd pick, even though he's a couple of points longer than Sanctioned. Alright, and then we're going to go to Vinda Dance would be the next pick, 5th pick, because he's got upside. He's out of the Baker and Forsman yard. They're traditionally very good Derby and Oaks trainers. He takes a big rising grade though, so he's got upside. Could improve out to 2,000 metres, but at the same price as Salsamore. Salsamore comes through the Start Stakes and the Caulfield Guineas, which are far superior races than what Vinda Dance has come 3rd in. So you can play some exotics with those 5. I think they're clear top 5. In the race, I'm not too sure who I'm going to back. If there's leader bias, definitely going to back Cliff's Edge. And you want to try and back, once you establish that there's a definite advantage to being on pace, you want to try and get Cliff's Edge before everybody else chops Cliff's Edge off when they're thinking the exact same thing. So Cliff's Edge if there's leader bias. Otherwise, Aloysia ticks a lot of boxes. I potentially could back her, especially if she drifts out. And I'm getting glowing reports from the yard. So that's it for Moonee Valley Saturday. Enjoy the day. It's a big day. Let's witness Winks making history. 3 Cox Plates in a row. Good on her. And I'm going to do a Friday night review for Moonee Valley and a Randwick review for Saturday. Preview, sorry. Not reviews. Previews for both. In the next video. I'll combine that all together. So hope you enjoyed it all. Hope this helps you sort of sort through your form and find a few winners on Saturday. Thanks, guys.